Welcome to another episode of People L Pod. I want you to imagine a scenario for a second.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
So, you've just poured your heart and soul into creating like one of the most critically acclaimed British albums of the entire year.
Right.
The reviews are absolutely glowing, your face is plastered on billboards all across London, and people are streaming your tracks by the millions.
Sounds like the dream.
It is. But then, when it comes time for the biggest, most prestigious music awards in the country, the Mercury Prize and the Brit Awards, you get a rejection.
Ouch.
Yeah. And not because your music wasn't good enough, but because you are explicitly told you aren't British enough to even get a nomination.
That is just wild.
And here's a real kicker. You have lived in the UK for 25 years.
It is just a staggering contradiction, honestly. I mean, you are actively shaping the culture. Your work is universally recognized as this defining piece of modern British art, and yet you are simultaneously rejected by the very institutions that supposedly exist to, represent that culture.
Exactly. It's like helping to cook this massive, beautiful, culturally defining banquet, right? You pay for the ingredients, you spend hours in the hot kitchen, only to be told you can't actually sit at the table and eat just because you don't have a very specific stamp on your invitation.
That's a really good way to put it.
Thanks. So today we're looking at a stack of sources, some music criticism, in-depth interviews, industry reports, to figure out our mission for this deep dive into the source material. We want to know, how does an outsider use pop music to hack and rewrite the cultural rules of an entire nation?
Yeah, and the artist at the center of this whole story is Rina Sawayama.
What's fascinating here is that Rina Sawayama isn't just a pop star. She is an artist who looked at that closed door, looked at the incredibly entrenched bureaucracy of the British music establishment, and literally forced it to change its rules.
Right, she didn't just put out a sad statement and accept the rejection.
No, not at all. She completely dismantled the criteria of the rejection itself.
Okay, let's unpack this for a second. For those who might not be super familiar with your work, let's establish who she actually is in the landscape of modern music.
Yeah, good idea. So basically, she is a Japanese-British singer, songwriter, model, and actress. And sonically, she is a total chameleon.
Oh, absolutely. She takes the bright maximalist pop of like the early 2000s, and she just mashes it up with aggressive nu metal, and then smooths the whole thing out with R&B.
Which is such a wild mix. But that brings us to a really crucial point about her strategy. Pop music is so often dismissed by critics as just like bubblegum or superficial or purely commercial.
Right, like it's just meant for the radio and nothing else.
Exactly. But for Sawayama, pop music is a Trojan horse. She uses these incredibly catchy, nostalgic soundscapes to basically smuggle in heavy, complex discourse on politics, identity, and institutional revolution.
Right. She recognizes that pop is a distinctly feminized genre, and rather than running from that label, she leans into it. She leverages it to project serious political power.
But wait, I get that pop music is massively popular and influential, obviously. But isn't calling it a Trojan horse for institutional revolution giving it, a bit too much credit?
You think?
Well, yeah. It's still just catchy music at the end of the day, isn't it? How much heavy discourse can you really fit into a 3-minute dance track?
See, that is exactly the illusion she relies on.
Really?
Yeah. The mechanics of a great pop song, like the repetitive hooks, the driving beat, the glossy production, all of that actually lowers your cognitive defenses.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Right. If someone walks up to you on the street and just starts lecturing you about late-stage capitalism or digital alienation, you tune them out. You're like, please leave me alone.
Totally.
But if those exact same ideas are layered underneath this booming bass line that makes you want to get up and dance, you consume the message without even realizing it. The catchiness is the delivery system. The lyrics are the payload.
Okay, wow, that actually makes perfect sense. So how does someone even develop that specific skill set? Because going from a young girl struggling to navigate a new country to becoming this defining, rule-breaking voice in pop culture, that requires a very unique trajectory.
It really does. And to understand that trajectory, we have to start at the beginning with a profound sense of dislocation.
Right.
So Rina Sawayama was born in Niigata, Japan in 1990. And when she was just 5 years old, her family emigrated to London. Now, the original plan was supposed to be highly temporary.
Just a short stint.
Exactly. Her parents only intended to stay for 5 years and then return to Japan when she turned 10.
Think about the psychological state of a kid in that situation,
Right.
For those first 5 formative years in the UK, She's living with this internal clock ticking down.
Yeah, countdown to going home.
Right. She isn't fully unpacking her mental bags because she thinks she's leaving. She's struggling to understand her teachers and peers due to the language barrier, but she's just enduring it because there's a clear end date.
But, as we know, life rarely adheres to a strict schedule. When she was 10, which was the deadline, her parents divorced.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So the plan to return to Japan was abruptly scrapped, and she ended up staying in London with her mother permanently. Suddenly, that temporary discomfort became her permanent reality.
That sounds profoundly isolating.
That really was.
In reading through these sources for our deep dive into the source material, this is where pop music transitions from just being background noise on the radio to becoming an actual lifeline for her. She couldn't easily connect with her classmates through English, so she found a bridge through the universal language of pop.
Right, music was the connection.
Yeah, but simultaneously, she was terrified of losing her Japanese identity. So she would obsessively watch Japanese artists like Hikaru Utada on television. Utada's music video for the song Automatic was a massive spark for her.
Oh, I've seen that one.
Yeah, so pop music became the anchor she used to hold on to Japan, and eventually it became the tool she used to translate herself to the West.
It provided a framework for her dual identity. But, the most revealing detail about her approach to music comes much later, during her university years.
Oh, right. This part is fascinating.
Yeah, because given her incredible vocal range, critics classify her as a soprano, and her obvious ear for complex arrangements, you would naturally assume she pursued formal musical training, right?
Right.
Like at a conservatory or a performing arts school.
That would be the standard path, yeah.
But she didn't. She went to Magdalen College at Cambridge University.
Cambridge, that is intense.
Very. And her major wasn't music either. She immersed herself in politics, psychology, and sociology, eventually graduating with a degree in political science.
That Cambridge degree is like a superpower in the pop world.
How so?
Well, most people treat a music video or song lyric as just a vehicle for an emotion, A breakup, a crush, going out on a Friday night.
Sure.
But Sawayama treats them as a canvas for the sociological and political theory she spent years studying. She's taking heavy academic texts and translating them into stadium anthems.
And she manages to do it without ever sounding like a university lecturer, which is the real trick.
Absolutely.
But getting to the point where she could actually release that music to the masses was a brutal, exhausting grind.
Oh, yeah, the indie days.
Right. We often hear about, industry plants or overnight TikTok sensations, but her reality as an independent artist was vastly different. She started her solo career around 2013 with a track called Sleeping and Waking. And to fund her 2017 debut EP, which was simply titled Rina, she didn't have some massive record label backing her. She worked 2 to 3 jobs simultaneously over several years.
3 jobs? That is exhausting just to think about.
It is. And all while navigating crippling mental health issues in her mid-20s, just to save up enough cash to self-release her art.
The sheer hustle is unreal, working 3 jobs just to put out a localized EP, and you can tell that relentless work ethic translates directly into her sound, which is this wild, fearless collision of influences.
Totally.
On one hand, she's pulling from massive theatrical pop icons like Lady Gaga, Madonna, and Avril Lavigne. Actually, she credits Avril Lavigne as the reason she convinced her dad to buy her a guitar at age 12.
I love that detail.
Right. But on the other hand, she's openly and heavily drawing from early 2000s new metal bands. Think Evanescence and Limp Bizkit.
Such a crazy combination.
It's like she's taking the architectural blueprint of a monster truck rally and using it to build a high-fashion runway.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, that friction between those genres is exactly where the genius lies.
How so?
Well, scholars analyzing her work have noted that Sawayama's artistry actively challenges what is called the white hegemonic masculine gaze.
Okay, let's break down how she actually does that.
Right, so think about nu metal or heavy rock. These are genres traditionally dominated by aggressive, angry white men. The sonic signature is heavy, distorted electric guitars and screaming vocals. She takes those aggressive instrumental tracks and reclaims them by layering them under hyper-feminine, airy, early 2000s Britney Spears-style vocals. And she's doing it entirely from a queer, Asian female perspective.
She takes the sonic vocabulary of a demographic that usually excludes people like her and just completely owns it.
Exactly.
And she pairs those jarring sounds with incredibly modern conceptual lyrics, Let's look at her track, Cyber Stockholm Syndrome.
Great example.
On the surface, it has this catchy R&B groove, but the mechanics of the song are designed to explore the pessimism, anxiety, and ultimate freedom of living in the digital world.
Yeah, she tricks you into thinking deeply.
Or take the song XS from her debut album. The mechanism there is fascinating. It features this heavy, crunching 2000s rock beat mixed with R&B, but the lyrics are a blistering, open mockery of late-stage capitalism and overconsumption.
Right. She's creating cognitive dissonance. She's making you dance to a catchy hook while actively critiquing your own consumption habits.
It's brilliant. Here's where it gets really interesting, though. That unique ability to marry high-level critique with undeniable pop appeal brings us to the major turning point in her career.
The breakthrough.
Yes. After grinding as an indie artist, she signs with Dirty Hit Records and releases her debut studio album, Sawayama, in April 2020.
And the critical acclaim was widespread, immediate, and overwhelming. The album wasn't just liked, it was hailed as visionary.
So it is the summer of 2020. The album is a massive success. The industry is buzzing. And then comes award season in the UK.
Here we go.
The Mercury Prize and the Brit Awards are the absolute pinnacle of British music recognition. This is her moment. But instead of an invitation, Rina is told she is completely ineligible to even be considered.
And why? Because she holds indefinite leave to remain, or ILR, instead of a British passport.
Okay, we need to explain the mechanics of ILR here because the bureaucratic absurdity is central to the story.
Yeah, it's very specific.
Indefinite leave to remain means she has the legal right to live, work, and pay taxes in the UK permanently without any time restrictions whatsoever.
Right.
She's been in the country since she was 5 years old. She went to British grade schools, graduated from a British university, and made an album deeply, inextricably influenced by British culture.
But Japan has very strict rules against dual citizenship for adults.
Oh, right.
So to get a British passport, she would have to entirely renounce her Japanese citizenship, effectively erasing her legal ties to her homeland and her family.
Which is a huge thing to ask of someone.
Completely. So she kept her Japanese passport and her UK ILR. But because of that specific paperwork, the British phonographic industry, the BPI, said she wasn't British enough to be recognized.
You know, most artists would just accept defeat here, maybe write a sad ballad about feeling alienated or put out a PR statement expressing their disappointment.
Yeah, maybe a notes app apology to the fans.
Exactly. But looking at these sources, she treats this bureaucratic wall the exact same way she treats a musical genre. She decides to completely dismantle it.
She went on the offensive.
She doesn't hire a lawyer to quietly petition the board. She takes to Twitter and actively, loudly calls out this hypocrisy. She sparks the hashtag Sawayama is British, and it catches fire. The entire internet rallies behind her.
And it escalated far beyond just a social media trend. Heavyweights in the industry started paying attention to the noise.
Who stepped in?
Elton John.
Wow.
Yeah, Elton John, who is essentially British music royalty, publicly threw his massive cultural weight behind her. He went online and explicitly stated he was happy to hear the BPI was reviewing the rules that led to her well-deserved album being snubbed.
That is massive.
And that is how power works in these industries, you know. When an independent artist complains, an institution might ignore it. When someone with Elton John's gravity speaks up, the institution has no choice but to listen.
Think about the last time you felt boxed in by a company policy or a societal expectation that made absolutely no sense, but you were just told, well, that's just the way it is.
Right. It's so frustrating.
What Sawayama's story shows us is that the very rules we think are immovable are often just outdated paperwork waiting for someone to challenge them.
Yeah.
And the consequence of all this pressure, she won. The BPI actually folded.
They did.
They changed their rules so that anyone who has been a long-term resident in the UK is now eligible for these major awards. Sawayama single-handedly altered the landscape of British music awards forever.
It proves that her political science background wasn't just theoretical classroom knowledge, you know. She understands the levers of power.
She knows how to pull them.
She knows exactly how to mobilize public opinion to dismantle outdated systems, and she brings that same unapologetic, confrontational advocacy to her own identity and her public image.
Yeah, she is incredibly transparent about who she is in a way that feels very intentional. Like in 2018, she officially came out as pansexual. She pointed out in an interview that she had only ever written songs about girls anyway, and she just wanted to be open about it rather than hiding behind vague pronouns.
Right, just putting it all out there.
And she uses her platform for tangible legislative change, too, like signing an open letter to the UK Equalities Minister demanding a total ban on LGBT plus conversion therapy.
She also actively dismantles the polished, unapproachable facade of the modern pop star.
Oh, so.
Well, in a 2022 interview, she candidly discussed navigating the grueling physical demands of the music industry, the touring, interviews, photo shoots, and doing all of that while suffering from irritable bowel syndrome, or IBS.
I mean, it is so deeply refreshing to hear a gorgeous, hyper-successful pop star talk about gastrointestinal distress.
It really is.
The pressure on women in this industry to be consistently flawless is suffocating, and she just casually shatters that illusion by talking about something so human and uncomfortable. And that desire to physically embody different personas and break molds naturally bled into her next career move. It wasn't enough to just write about these power dynamics. She wanted to act them out on screen, which led her to Hollywood.
Oh, right, her acting.
She made her film acting debut in the massive action blockbuster John Wick, Chapter 4, playing the role of Akira. And she clearly made an impact because she's slated to reprise that role in a 2026 spin-off film called Kane.
Her willingness to step into different arenas is matched by her willingness to call out industry giants when they step out of line.
Yeah, she doesn't hold back.
Not at all. And she does this regardless of the potential backlash to her own career. Even back in 2017, before she had the immense cultural clout she wields now, she publicly criticized Madonna.
Really? Madonna?
Yes, Madonna had released a skincare ad that cast East Asian women in silent, submissive roles.
Ugh, yikes.
And Sawayama called her out for portraying these women as stereotypical, infantilized accessories just to sell overpriced products.
We've painted a picture of this fearless, untouchable activist who effortlessly bends the industry to her will. But reading these interviews in our deep dive into the source material, you realize that armor was forged from some incredibly dark places.
Yeah, that's true.
The trajectory wasn't just a series of triumphant victories.
No, and that is a critical distinction to make.
Yeah.
Her work is deeply, intrinsically informed by trauma. In a very candid 2023 interview, Sawayama revealed that when she was 17, she was sexually groomed by a schoolteacher.
That is Jeff.
The psychological toll of that abuse was immense. She underwent extensive sex and relationship therapy to process the trauma and the horrific slut-shaming she endured in the aftermath.
Wow.
But she didn't hide this part of her past. Instead, she confronted it head-on in her 2022 album, Hold the Girl. She specifically channeled that deeply suppressed rage and pain into the track, Your Age, using the music as a mechanism to process her own history.
It takes unimaginable strength to turn that kind of violation into art that helps others heal.
It really does.
But it also highlights how vulnerable artists, especially young women, are to those in positions of power. Which brings me to the current state of her career.
Right, the current situation.
Wait, I need you to break this down for me. She changed British law. She has all this clout. She's acting in Hollywood blockbusters. But the sources say she doesn't own her masters and literally cannot release another album under her current conditions.
Yeah, it's a huge issue.
What does that actually mean in practice? Why does that stop her from releasing music?
It's a vital question
Mm-hmm.
because it reveals the invisible cages of the music industry. So when an artist records a song, there are generally two copyrights. One for the composition, so the lyrics and the melody,
Okay, got it.
and one for the master, which is the actual physical sound recording of that specific performance. Historically, record labels retain ownership of those master recordings.
So they own the files.
Exactly. So even though it is Sawayama's voice, her lived experience, and her creative vision, the corporation owns the actual audio files. They control how, when, and where that music is used, and they reap the majority of the financial reward.
That seems so backwards.
By stating she cannot release another album under these conditions, she is pointing to how these traditional contracts essentially hold an artist's voice hostage.
So the same corporate machine that profits off her progressive, rule-breaking image is using archaic, restrictive legal mechanisms to control her output.
Precisely.
She changed the rules of the BPI, but she's still fighting the structural misogyny of the record label system from the inside. It's infuriating.
It is.
But if anyone has the intellect and the grit to fight a battle of attrition over contracts, it's her. And her activism certainly hasn't slowed down while she deals with this. In fact, her political convictions have moved to a much more global stage recently.
Yes, her academic background in political science continues to dictate her actions in real time. In September 2025, Sawayama joined the No Music for Genocide boycott. This involved intentionally geo-blocking her own music on streaming platforms in Israel as a form of protest regarding the conflict in Gaza.
I want to be super clear here for you, the listener, as we look at the historical data in these sources. We aren't here to endorse this boycott or take a political side on the conflict.
Right, absolutely.
We are impartially relaying the historical actions taken by the artist as documented in the sources. We bring it up because it perfectly illustrates the mechanism of her career.
Exactly. From an analytical standpoint, it shows that she consistently views her primary asset, which is her music and her catalog, as leverage for her political beliefs. She is willing to sacrifice streams, revenue, and invite intense global controversy if it aligns with the sociological principles she values.
So what does this all mean? We started this conversation talking about a cultural banquet you aren't allowed to eat at.
Right, the locked door.
Sawayama didn't just stand outside the window looking in, tapping on the glass. She broke down the door, rewrote the guest list, and demanded a seat at the head of the table.
She really did.
She is living, breathing proof that pop music isn't just a shiny soundtrack for a night out. It is a distinctly feminized genre imbued with serious, world-altering political power.
Absolutely.
She isn't just an entertainer. She is a political science graduate who used the Trojan horse of pop music to rewrite the very rules of British identity and to challenge the massive corporate machines that try to control art.
Which leaves us with a critical question to consider, I think. If a single independent pop artist, armed with an internet connection, a brilliant mind, and a devoted fan base, can force a massive entrenched institution like the British phonographic industry to fundamentally change its rigid definitions of national identity, what other outdated cultural systems and bureaucratic walls could be dismantled by the art and the artists we consume every single day?
Thanks for listening to PPL Pod. Keep tuning in for more stories worth knowing.